Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, Timothy J. Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Much love to each and every one of you that is checking out this podcast. And as my grandfather say, upon the sound of my weak voice, I really do appreciate it. Much love to the people that are in the chat right now. Much love to all of the people that are listening around the country, around the world. I really do appreciate it. On this edition, we're going to be talking about Saints general manager and executive vice president, executive vice president, Mickey Loomis, having his weekly slot on WWL radio. Talked a little bit about the firing of Dennis Allen, also the trade of Mark into that. And we're going to be talking about, should the New Orleans Saints really cut ties with Mickey Loomis as the general manager? Now, we'll get into that. We'll get into that and my thoughts on that. But shouts out once again to all those in the chat. And for those that can't make it, shouts out to the After Show boys.
Shouts out, shouts out, shouts out, shouts out, shouts out to the After Show boys. Shouts out, shouts out, shouts out, shouts out, shouts out to the After Show boys. They be tweet and be post, they be tweet and be post, they be tweet. Yeah, them After Show boys. They be tweet and be post, they be tweet and be post, they be tweet. Yeah, them After Show boys.
Shouts out to all the After Show boys, After Show girls out there. But let's go ahead and get into it, man. I don't want to waste anybody's time. I don't want to waste no time whatsoever. Want to go ahead and put this up here. Got to acknowledge BETUS. I'll get into a little bit later how you can save some money and also, all of the things that you can take a part in BETUS. We'll get into that. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Saints general manager Mickey Loomis. Mickey Loomis has his weekly slide on WWL where he talks about a plethora of issues, positive and negative, when it comes to the New Orleans Saints. And I think the elephant in the room that everybody wanted to discuss, even though they didn't start it off talking about it, was the firing of head coach Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen was fired on Monday by the New Orleans Saints after losing 7 straight games. The most recent game was against the 1-7 lowly Carolina Panthers, even though I got a special place in my heart for the Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young for doing God's work, because we have a general manager, unfortunately, Who Dat Nation, that can't do God's work, which is firing Dennis Allen. You had to come from the tippy top with Gail Benson, but we'll get into that a little bit later. He spoke a little bit about the firing of head coach Dennis Allen. This is what he said. This is courtesy of WWL.
Yeah. Look, Dennis Allen, I think, is a fantastic football coach. And I think anybody in our league who would talk about him thinks he's a fantastic football coach. He is. I think in this case, look, the circumstances, created the record. That's just the truth. And a lot of people don't want to hear it. I mean, we get silly things written like, the players aren't parking in the right spots. I mean, that's ridiculous. Players have been parking out there for the last 15 years, because look, we've got construction going on. We've got, 100 more employees than we had 10 years ago. That's just silly. And to equate that with discipline is silly too. I mean, we're the eighth going into this last game. We were the eighth fewest penalties in the league. That's more of a comment on discipline than where a player parks, for crying out loud. But it just gets right back to, what stares at you right in the face is that we've had an abnormal amount of injuries, including to our quarterback, and we haven't been able to overcome that. And so that puts pressure and stress on the organization, and ultimately it was cause for, a change.
Man, oh man. So as you can hear, General Manager Mickey Loomis, he is calling Dennis Allen a great football coach. I'm going to say that again. Mickey Loomis is calling Dennis Allen a great football coach. If you want to talk defense, okay, fine, right? Throughout the years, he has been one of the best defensive coordinators in the game. I'll even erase like some of the games that took place this year. He has been one of the best defensive coordinators in the game. But when you talk about excellent coach, great coach, he is not. He is not. This is the type of stuff that I'm talking about here. This is the stuff that I am talking about. Mickey Loomis just can't call a spade a spade. Mickey Loomis cannot call a spade a spade. He is continuously doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down, quintupling down. Look, he is continuously telling people that Dennis Allen is a good football coach. The reason why the New Orleans Saints were in the state that they were in, losing 7 consecutive games, was because of the injuries. He says that nobody wants to hear that, but it was the injuries. Ladies and gentlemen, who that nation? This guy is freaking delusional. He is delusional. He is losing his freaking mind. This is a guy, in my opinion, who is emotionally invested in Dennis Allen. For some apparent reason, Dennis Allen is clinging on to his heartstrings. This guy continuously tries to lobby for Dennis Allen, even when the entire world sees that Dennis Allen sucks as a head coach. You got ESPN knows that he sucks as a head coach. You got local beat writers. They won't come out and say it, but they know the guy's not a good head coach. You have players inside of the locker room that are basically saying, without saying, understandably so, that the guy is not a good head coach. He decides to cling on to an article that was put out by Jeff Duncan about parking in certain parking spots. That article came out last season. But what about this season? What about this season? What about losing 7 straight games? What are we going to do about that? What are we going to do about former offensive lineman James Hurst, who's now a contributor on WDSU down in New Orleans, Channel 6, telling everybody that he lost the locker room? I'm talking Dennis Allen. The final game of the season when the Saints beat the Atlanta Falcons 48-17, Jameis Winston decides to give Jamal Williams a touchdown, and you had Dennis Allen going in front of the media and apologizing to the Atlanta Falcons and throwing his players under the bus, leaving those players wondering, does their head coach have their back? You got Amy Trask, the former president of the Oakland Raiders at the time, saying that they had guys coming in and out of the locker room, up to their office, telling them about some of the things that Dennis Allen is doing, talking about how Dennis Allen doesn't encourage them, talk about how Dennis Allen doesn't motivate them. What are we going to do about that? What are we going to do about Alvin Kamara after the crushing loss to the Carolina Panthers, saying, and I quote, we got guys like Alontae Taylor, they're confident, Tipton, confident, DeMario, confident. Maybe they're not confident in something else. So you're saying that all of this stuff we're embellishing. You're saying that all this stuff that we're talking about is just a figment of our imagination. No. Dennis Allen being a good head coach is a figment of your imagination, Mickey Loomis. And for that, it just shows me that you're emotionally invested in this guy. Football is a business. I'm going to say that again. Football is a business. It's a business. And you can't mix business with pleasure. You cannot look at people like, oh, man, that's my family. I love them. I'm about to go down here and I'm going to go down with the ship. I'm going to ride for my family members. I'm going to ride for my guys. You can do that with your family. If somebody in your family getting jumped on the street, you can go up there, oh, snap, let me take my shirt off. Let me take my jacket off. Let me go out here and put in work. That's your family. Well, we're talking about business, man. That's the reason why you don't go into business with your family. I said this last night or Tuesday night on the NFC South Roundtable. That's the reason why you don't get into business with your family, because there's going to come a time where you're going to have a tough conversation. Maybe the books ain't looking on the up and up. Maybe their energy isn't matching yours. You got to be able to have that conversation. And I have one thing that is a deal breaker when it comes to business with me. If I have to second guess how I am going to approach a conversation with you, I probably shouldn't be in business with you in the first place. This guy has jeopardized his credibility, and he is willing to look like an absolute buffoon. I'm just calling it for what it is. To continuously support a guy, not as a human being, not as a family man, but as a coach, is a loser. He's a loser. Everywhere he's been, he has lost. He has never, for the exception of one season, out of 6 that he coached, he only had one winning season. And in both spots, he couldn't finish the season. How many, I use the example also of the movie Shallow Hal. I know some of y'all probably seen the movie Shallow Hal with Jack Black. Jack Black was hypnotized by Tony Robbins, a motivational speaker, where he was only able to see people's inner beauty, right? No matter what the person looked like, no matter what they were, if they had inner beauty in the eyes of Jack Black when he got hypnotized, he only can see the good, the beautiful. So he was walking around seeing the world a completely different way from everybody else. Everybody looking at it like, man, what you talking about, man? What are you talking about? You're not seeing what I'm seeing. Mickey Loomis is Jack Black. He sees the world completely different from everybody else. He's looking at Dennis Allen's inner beauty here. Nobody says that Dennis Allen isn't a great person. Nobody says that Dennis Allen isn't professional. Nobody says that Dennis Allen, isn't cordial with his time. Nobody's saying any of those things. But we're talking about being a leader of men. We're talking about being motivated. I watched Darren Rizzi talk to the media for 20 minutes when he was hired and he was elected as the new interim coach. And in those 49 seconds, when a question was asked, what do you have to say to the fans that were upset at the product? In 49 seconds, I got more energy from Darren Rizzi than 2.5 seasons from Dennis Allen. And I guarantee you, if I feel like that, I guarantee you those players feel like that too. It's an embarrassment that you, as a general manager, have been a general manager for about almost 20 years, if not 20 years. You have built up so much positive equity by hiring Sean Payton as the head coach, one of the longest tenure coach with one team, right? You got Drew Brees, arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. You built up all that positive equity. And in 2.5 years, you destroyed it by laying on the sword for a guy that has not won a doggone thing. It is pathetic. Nobody, I keep saying this, nobody would have questioned Mickey Loomis if he would have fired Dennis Allen after the second season. Nobody would have said anything. You know what they would have said? There was a standard left by Sean Payton and Drew Brees. And we want to maintain that standard. And what Dennis Allen is doing is not maintaining a standard. And ain't nobody going to say nothing. Nobody will look at the Saints as a dysfunctional organization. Why? Because you have a reputation for being one of the most credible football teams in football. Only the Kansas City Chiefs, during a nearly 20-year span, had more regular season wins than the Saints. You know what that says? I know the Saints didn't go to the Super Bowl every year, but they were in playoff contention. They were winning double-digit games. They had top seeding. So that means that a standard was left. And you want to maintain that standard. But you're up here worrying about optics, how things are perceived. We don't want to look like a messed up organization. Guess what? You're in cap hell right now. You hired a $150 million quarterback that's a C-plus player who giving you production that Jameis Winston could have gave you or Andy Dalton could have gave you. And then on top of that, you hired a head coach with an 8-28 record and trying to compare him to the greats like Don Shula, Chuck Noll, and Bill Belichick. Nobody has to look around and say, man, I wonder if the New Orleans Saints are dysfunctional. You basically showed everybody that you are dysfunctional by your decision making. And it also makes you look incompetent that you don't want to call a spade a spade. Dennis Allen needed to go. Those players did not want to play for him. It was basically mutiny right in front of our eyes. There have been several games this season. The dudes quit. And yeah, you can chunk it up to some injuries. Yeah, they probably, when it comes to some of the execution of plays, guys with like a deer in the headlights, if they're not getting those reps, I'll give you that. But I will also give you guys like Malik Willis, who came in after week 1 when Jordan Love went down against the Philadelphia Eagles, got traded from the Tennessee Titans to the Green Bay Packers. And guess what? Malik Willis in 3 starts is now 2-1. I will give you Joe Flacco, who came in when after Anthony Richardson got hurt and got benched, they winning football games. Miss me with that nonsense. I don't care what type of injuries you have. I don't care what you're actually going through as a franchise. If you have a competent leader, you are going to look formidable. Not only were the Saints losing football games, they were getting pimp slapped on the field in the process. Now think about this. Saints have lost games over the years, who that nation. They've lost games. We've seen the Saints lose games. But how did they lose? How did it make you feel after they lost? You were hurt. You were angry. Your blood pressure was high. Why? Because they were in a game from start to finish. Or they facilitated some type of comeback and it came down to a last-minute field goal, or it came down to somebody throwing an interception. You were emotionally invested in a football game. What we have seen over the last 7 weeks does not resemble that. I'll give you 5. I'll give you 5 weeks, over the last 5 weeks, because when you think about Philadelphia, they were in that game. Green Bay, not Green Bay, but Kansas City, they were kind of in that game. But when it's the last 5 weeks, it was just like, man, we just showing up to work. We just here so we won't get fined. And it's all because of Dennis Allen and Mickey Loomis. This emotional roller coaster that he on right now is the main reason why the Saints need to tell him to step down and find somebody in here that won't mix business with pleasure. Because I can tell you this, with that nation, we cheering. We about to start a second line. We about to throw some slabs on the grill because Dennis Allen is being fired. But let me pump your brakes just for a second. If Mickey Loomis continues to be the general manager, we're going to find ourselves in the same position. Some low-hanging fruit coach that can't inspire somebody to come out of a wet paper bag will be the next head coach of this team. He will continue to kick the can down the road and make mistake after mistake after mistake. He will not add to the scouting department when these guys have been whiffing on draft picks since I don't know how long. We will continue to have the same practices, and we will have the same emotions, and we will have the same outrage. This dude has got to go. It's just that plain and simple. If the Saints want to turn a page, turn a page. I don't want no New Orleans Saints layovers. Darren Rizzi, I wish him the best. I hope that he can coach the heck out of this team, but it is time to remove the Saints and the fans away from the Sean Payton-isms, the Sean Payton customs. It was a great moment in time. It was a great moment in time, ladies and gentlemen. Who that nation? It was great to watch the New Orleans Saints win. Talk noise on social media to other rival teams. It felt good. But this fear that you have at turning a page is the reason why we're still stuck in the mud. It's time for us to get out of the mud. I know it's scary. It's scary to go to uncharted territories. It's scared to go to unfamiliar territories. But guess what? It might turn out to be the best decision of your life. I live approximately 11 and a half hours from everybody that I've loved and I appreciate. And the reason I'm saying this is because if I didn't take that step, then I wouldn't be in this radio station right now. I wouldn't have my wife. I wouldn't have my son. Plain and simple. Sometimes you got to step out your comfort zone in order for you to embark on something that can possibly be great. And hell, it may not be great. You might have to end up tucking your tail between your legs, going back home. But guess what? At least you tried. At least you know that you had the capability of doing it. And that's what I can respect. I can respect losing if you're trying to build something. But what I can't do is respect losing when you continuously are the main reason why you are losing. You're failing because you don't want to turn a page. That's the most frustrating thing about being a Saints fan in 2024, and it will continue to be frustrating as long as this guy is the general manager. But let me go ahead and read some of y'all comments, man. Let me go ahead and read some of these comments because this is absolutely ridiculous that this guy is still sitting up here lobbying for this guy. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Good afternoon, TJ and the Who Dat Nation. What's going on, Kathleen? Appreciate you for being here. Says Real Life Brown says that's who we need is Malik Willis. I like Malik Willis, but nah. He lost the team when he didn't go back to Jameis. I'm waiting for an answer. I don't know if y'all must be debating or something. I don't know. Let's see. Drafting Rattler was a courtesy pick. Mickey needs to give up his general manager position. Gail needs to take it from him. I agree with that. Too emotional. Too emotional. Chris Olave shared a tweet from Mike T that was aimed directly at Derek Carr. Giving a shout out to Jerry G. TJ is so fired up. Yeah, I am fired up because this is ridiculous at this point. It's ridiculous, man. We're having this conversation. This is something that can be completely avoidable. The Saints were trying to make a loser work. Bruh, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. You can't make somebody be something that they're not. This guy is not a leader of men. Good coordinator. And he will bounce back. He will be on somebody's team and he'll probably be a defensive coordinator lifer. And he'll be just like kind of like how Steve Spagnuolo is. Steve Spagnuolo is a good defensive coordinator, great defensive coordinator. Head coach, he sucked. Not very good. Some guys, they have it and some guys don't. Some coaches have the ability to be leaders of men, to be able to motivate, to be able to strategize consistently, game in, game out, week in, week out, challenge players that it don't seem like you're up here and they're down here. But when you're calling out young, promising running backs like Kendre Miller, and I understand people are frustrated with the hamstring, but when a guy is in, he's talented. And I do feel like a lot of these young players on the Saints team were probably being held back because Dennis Allen didn't want to have the conversation with some of these veterans that have been taking up space in time. Yes, I just said that. A lot of these guys, no disrespect, but you got to put the best players out there that's going to give you a chance to win. If it's those seasoned veterans, then that's what it's going to be. But don't just put a guy out there because he has a namesake. Don't just put a guy out there because he's making $12 million a year. Put a guy out there that's going to be able to play. And that's one thing I did have an appreciation for with Sean Payton for. I don't care if he was undrafted. I don't care if he was a 6th round pick and you drafted the other guy as a 2nd round pick. if he ain't good enough, he ain't playing. With Dennis Allen, if Stanley Jean-Baptiste was still with the team, he'll be playing out there because he's a second-round pick. And some of these guys, I feel like you kind of holding them back. And I can tell you this, and I'm going to tell you the reason why, because we watching Caden Ellis, we watching Zach Bond, we watching Trey Hendrickson. Them boys balling everywhere they go. Caden Ellis had one of his best games as a pro last week versus the Cowboys. Zach Bond leading, like second in the league in tackles right now. And Trey Hendrickson leading the league in sacks. And you had those guys in-house. You had them here. But you wasted them. Zach Bond last season with the New Orleans Saints, I think he had like 6 or 7 sacks. Caden Ellis, final year with the New Orleans Saints, had 7 sacks. Trey Hendrickson, his last season with the Saints, had 15 sacks. I mean, come on, man. Do I need to spell it out for y'all? You had the talent. You had the guys. But you act as if, we can build another one of them. No, you can't. Now you're around this thing scratching, looking under the couch cushion for sacks, hoping that some of these guys that you actually signed and drafted can give you that production. Meanwhile, Trey Hendrickson has probably more sacks in the last 3 seasons than your entire line had in 1 year. Bad decision making. And it all comes from this guy right here, right there at the bottom of your screen, Mr. Mickey Loomis. And I am really starting to feel, and I'm not trying to get people blood to boil, but I'm really starting to feel like this dude don't like fans. Looking at people like they just money. Shut up and come spend your hard-earned money. Like the arrogance that this guy speaks with, like he has all the answers. Dude, you ain't hit it out the park in a very long time. And when I'm starting to think about it, maybe there was only 2 times where you actually hit it out the park. You hit a 2-run homer, and now you still talking about it and telling everybody how you hit that 2-run homer. So at the end of the day, like I'm wondering, what is this dude doing? Was he as good as everybody making him out to be, or was he covered up by good quarterback play and good coach? Maybe we had 2 individuals that was able to make a gourmet meal out of great value products. Because that would have seemed like to me that he wants people to basically, praise him. Bruh, you are screwing this thing up. And then on top of that, like you have lost the fan base. See, people are still here because they love this football team. They ain't feeling you. And it took Gail Benson, God bless her. It took Gail Benson in order for her to step in. Somebody that don't even really know football as much as you, to step in and say, nah, this enough. Because you would have continued to let this issue keep going. It is pathetic. It is pathetic at this point, Who Dat Nation. It's sad. It's sad. Don't let Mickey be around the new coach or the draft. I agree. And honestly, I'm looking at Loomis. I'm looking at Ireland too. Because Ireland, to me, he hit that home run when the bases were loaded, and and we still talking about that too. We still talking about 2017. That's his leg to stand on. I'm over all these guys in the front office. You can keep Kai Harley because, he has shown that he can do some things with the books. But he's doing that because he's intelligent. So imagine what he can actually do if you actually gave him some money that he can actually work with, instead of having him burning a midnight oil trying to rob Peter to pay Paul. So I keep somebody like that in house, but the rest of these dudes, keep it moving. Jeff Ireland, keep it moving. Mickey Loomis, go upstairs somewhere and sit next to Gail and be the representative and go to some of these owner meetings when she needs you to be there. Talk with Dennis Lauscher about how they're going to add an extra deck on top of the Superdome or add some extra paint to the dome or something. I don't know. But get away from these football operations. Put somebody else up in here with some fresh blood and some fresh ideas that can be able to change this football team. Stop doing it. Stop doing it. Same old song and dance. I'm sick of it, man. Stop going to the game. Stop buying merch unless somebody makes get rid of Loomis t-shirt. I'm going to say this. Now that they got rid of Dennis Allen, I'm okay with Saints fans going to the football games because to me, Gail Benson has shown that she supports the fans. You know what I'm saying? The fans, she backs the fans. She listens to the fans because this came from her. So if this showed Gail Benson to us in a completely different light. Like a lot of us probably just sit up here and just, thought like she was just sitting up there, on some Miss America type stuff. Like, oh, you're on a team, but all these other guys around here just basically doing whatever, and she's just oblivious to what's going on. She showed that she values the fan base. So for that, I would say support the football team. But this dude right here that y'all see at the bottom of the screen, this guy needs to go. He needs to go as the general manager of the New Orleans Saints. Part of me feel like he kind of gets off on this weekly radio show he has now. Makes him feel like Jerry Jones. If you live in Dallas or the Fort Worth area, you already know every single week, no matter what the Cowboys looking like, he comes up there and he has this presidential address like he feels, to make him feel important, to make him feel special. I think a part of him gets off on that type of stuff because I told y'all at the beginning, I feel like he felt overshadowed by Sean Payton. Sean Payton getting all the credit. Sean Payton being looked at as the deity of New Orleans Saints football and him kind of playing behind the scenes. And I think a part of him, because Dennis Allen was so passive aggressive and ain't gonna rock the boat, kind of made him stand out. Because let's just be real about this, Who Dat Nation. Throughout the times, like I say in the last 15, 20 years, how many times do we really have conversations about Mickey Loomis? Not many. But every single week, this season and last season, we talking about something he said, rather than looking beyond the results, having the right people in the locker room. Maybe he gets off on stuff like that. And it also leads me to this point. And I like Mike Hoss a lot, much respect to him, but I got to call a spade a spade. Some of the most softball questions I have ever heard in my entire life. I mean, soft as a baby's bottom. Like, I get it. I understand. You got to be impartial, but dang, man, can we at least, owe it to the fans or something like that to get the fans what they asking for? Like you're the mouthpiece. When you're having these interviews, you got to be able to ask these tough questions. They got to be able to answer them. If they won't walk off, so be it. You did your job. But I just want to put it at that. Like Bobby Hebert or not, Bobby Hebert ain't afraid to ask the questions that we want to know. But the question with softball is I don't know what. And the way they were presented, were a tad bit soft. I'm gonna say it. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say it. Oh, like even with the way they started it off, no disrespect, Marshawn Lattimore. No disrespect to him. Everybody know how I feel about Marshawn, but come on, man. We know what everybody wanted to talk about first to open that thing up. No, we're not going to talk about Dennis Allen first. Let's go ahead and talk about Marshawn Lattimore. Trying to live everybody to sleep. Oh, it's okay, Mick. I got to take care of you. Nah, man, don't take care of this guy. Ask this man the questions that Saint fans want to know. We watch these games on television, taking 3.5, 4 hours out of our life. We need some answers. We need to know why you are doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down on a losing coach that ain't won nothing in the NFL since ever. That's what we want to know. I don't want to know about, parking spots. I don't want to know about, what you ate for dinner last night. I don't want to hear about how you talked to Sean Payton and when the last time you talked to him. Did y'all go play golf together? I don't care about that. My team is teetering. The Titanic is sinking. That's like the Titanic is sinking. I'm about to sink into the iceberg and be like, dang, man, that guy that's playing that violin, man, he sure hitting them chords right. Who cares? I'm about to perish. That's all I'm saying. But I like Mike Hoss, man. Legend. Other than that, man, we got to ask the questions that people want to know. Super King Cooper, thank you very much for the $4.99. Says TJ, I wouldn't put it past DA and Mickey propose Sandbag and Rattler by having the off be the super villain so Carr look good. Man, I'm done with Carr. Like, let him play out his contract and keep it moving. All right, like peace out. Dude ain't winning nothing either. Losing culture, losing coach, 2 + 2. Eagles lose if you're Dennis Allen and you're Derek Carr. Derek Carr, to me, ain't winning jack. You need too perfect of a situation in order for him to thrive. And then on top of that, his whole plan backfired. Yes, I just said that. His plan was to come back against low-hanging fruit against the Carolina Panthers because, oh, man, it's 1-7. And everybody's around here talking about how Spencer Rattler was the guy. Let me go in and take on the Carolina Panthers and show them that I can lead this team. And went out there and looked slow. Go at some of them yards. The majority of the yards came on that little dump down he had at the Jordan Mims at the end of the game. Selfish. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Dude came in, everybody's going to say, well, he was a warrior. He came back out here, defend. He was out there for his team. He was hurt. But let me tell you something. I told y'all this before. Why in the world would you check it down? Everybody and their mama thought that you was about to throw that ball to the end zone. Everybody back there, hands team back there, they ready to knock the ball down. If you can't get the ball down there, how about going to the sidelines, telling Dennis Allen, hey, I don't know, man, my oblique's still bothering me. You think one of the young bulls can go out there and throw it to the end zone? Something like that, right? But even with that, that's not even his fault. It's the dummy that is Dennis Allen's fault. The dummy coach, I should say. It's his fault. Because you know this dude conditioned. And if he practiced, how many passes did he throw down the field? How many passes in practice did he throw down the field? Did you see him actually throw a ball past 20 yards? Did you read the pulse of the game? Towards the tail end of Drew Brees' career, when he couldn't get the ball down the field, what did he do? What did Sean Payton do? He put Taysom Hill in to throw the pass down the field. Y'all remember that pass against the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs to Devontae Harris that Taysom Hill threw? Do y'all remember the trick play against the Chicago Bears in the playoffs when Drew Brees couldn't get the ball down the field that Jameis threw to Tre'Quan Smith? That's what good coaches do. They understand the ailments and what the limitations are of their players, and they find ways to compensate for it. But the guy who walked and switched his way to the sidelines, who couldn't coach himself out of a wet paper bag, sent the guy out here with an oblique injury that probably was still dealing with it, and didn't even think about the fact that maybe this guy can't throw the ball down the field. So he had to check it down. So the majority of the yards came from a check down. But this is the guy. I'm talking Dennis Allen. This is the guy that Mickey Loomis wants us to believe that if everybody was here and all hands were on deck, the New Orleans Saints would have about 7 or 8 wins right now. Man, miss me with that nonsense right there. Dude is a loser. He's a loser. He's going to find a way to fumble the bag. How many times have we seen this season that improbable scenarios, who that nation, improbable things that you never thought in your life would happen, and things that you would never ever think of would cause a team to lose a football game. You run for over 150 yards. You outgain your opponent over 150 total yards. You don't allow an offensive touchdown in the game. You got 2 interceptions and a block punt, and all those scenarios right there, you lose the football game. But this is the guy. This is the dude that Mickey Loomis is telling us is an excellent football coach. Why are some fans so turned off by the fact of the Saints having a chance to draft Shadur? Every time I mention his name, they're so against it. Y'all know me, I'm pretty frank. There's a portion of the Who Dat Nation that don't want an African-American quarterback to be the franchise and the face of the franchise. Get in where you fit in. The second one is the fact that he's a polarizing figure, and a lot of the media coverage on the Colorado Buffaloes and Deion Sanders and some of the antics of him kind of being flashy. I have watched every single snap that Shadur Sanders had taken in college. Guy went to my alma mater. He went to Jackson State. He started out at Jackson State. I watched this guy develop. I watched him from the fact of him having a little bit of a fumble issue. Like when he first was a freshman at Jackson State, I watched him work on his mechanics. I watched his accuracy improve. I watched his arm strength improve. he's one of the most intelligent quarterbacks that you're going to see. See, people won't pay attention to that stuff because all they see is da-na-na, da-na-na. What's the problem with Shedeur Sanders? Paul Feinbaum. Well, I don't think that he's really that good. I think his dad talks too much. Yeah, he talks too much. He's too flashy. He always showing the watch off. Why he got to show the watch off for? Not looking at his game. I don't care. See, that's the problem with Saints football. We want politicians. We want baby kissers and handshakers. I want some dogs, man. I want some guys that feel and believe that they're going to be the best at their position. They're the baddest thing walking around here. That's the problem. Too many nice guys. I look, it would be great if you can have a team that wins consistently and all of them you can bring home for Thanksgiving and wouldn't mind them dating your daughter. But you need some dogs out there that's going to be able to go out there, jaw a little bit, walk around like they own the place. Shedeur Sanders is that dude. I don't care what anybody says. Go and watch this dude play. Go and watch him play and tell me if this dude ain't that guy. If anybody ejects that, then they ain't watching Shedeur Sanders. They just basically watching ESPN split screen debates about Colorado football. There's nowhere in the world that somebody is watching Shedeur Sanders play football and telling me that that dude is not a franchise quarterback. There ain't no way. There's no way. There's no way that you're watching Colorado football and watching Shedeur Sanders throw the football and make the decisions that he's making and showing the toughness last season, getting sacked left and right because they have no offensive line. And now they have a better offensive line. This man making plays, throwing for almost 300, 400 yards a game and multiple touchdowns. But y'all don't want some of that. Like I said, some people, they worry about, him being so polarized, and other people just don't want to see a black quarterback be the franchise of a team. I'm from Louisiana. I know how some of them people think. If you're not one of them people that I'm talking about, then be quiet. But for those that get upset, there's that old saying, hurt dogs holler. TJ, I'm wondering why Mrs. Benson would put Mickey in his will. We're that close of friends because he's running the organization to the ground. Yeah, Linda, look, I feel this way. Very, very simple. Tom Benson, I don't think, had any biological children, right? And he is keen on loyalty. That's how he always been. Randy Mueller, the former general manager before Mickey Loomis got there, was out there in bed, be in bed with the Atlanta Falcons, having little quiet meetings and stuff like that, thinking about jumping ship. And Tom Benson heard about it, fired him. Hired Mickey Loomis. Mickey Loomis throughout the years showed his loyalty. And in the process, he became almost like a son to Tom Benson. And that's the reason why he's in his will. So, that's basically the story. Take a few more and then I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here, folks. But before I do, I want to acknowledge BETUS. Sign up today. Get up to 150% on your first deposit, up to 125% on your second and third deposit, up to $2,000. Or you can use the promo code YouTube150 if you download the BETUS app or you go to their website. Putting him in his will is still mind-blowing to me. I still don't believe he made the decision with a full conscious mind. That sounds too fishy. I mean, I know they say Rita Benson LeBlanc was trying to, sue for his, for his estate, I guess, saying that he was mentally incompetent, but they proved that he was competent. So I don't know. Shedeur already has experience playing behind a bad O-line, so he fit in. Shedeur Sanders will bring a whole different type of swag and confidence to the New Orleans Saints. I don't know what other people saying. I don't. He completes about 70% of his passes. He has a crazy touchdown to interception ratio. And he's cerebral. I don't know if people watch this guy play football, but he's one of the most smartest quarterbacks I've seen in a minute. He understands defenses. He's able to dissect them right away. He's an intelligent quarterback. He's a smart football player. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I think a lot of people get into those press clippings the Paul Feinbaums, the people that, that talk about Colorado, all into that. They ain't really watching them. They looking at, oh man, Dion talking all that talking. They went 4-8 last year. He talking all that talk. He talking all that talk. He need the coach. He ain't like those other coaches out there. He talking that talk. Y'all know how they talking that talk. Like, man, come on. If they not after a touchdown handing the ball back to the referee, then all of a sudden like they're a diva, or they don't need to be drafted. Man, they ain't rescuing cats from a tree. You're like, come on, man. I don't care. If the Saints draft Shedeur Sanders, you're going to see the same thing that is happening in Washington, in my opinion. Now, if I'm wrong, come back and say, TJ, you told me that he was going to be like Jaden Denton. Bro, I'm telling you, if the Saints draft, until I'm proven otherwise, if the Saints draft Shedeur Sanders, you're going to have the same situation like Washington has with Jaden Daniels. The confidence and the belief in oneself that Shedeur Sanders has is something I feel like is missing from the New Orleans Saints organization. They need that right now. They need that in a quarterback. So, like I said, if I ain't talking about you, I ain't talking about you. You may have a completely different reason as to why you don't want Shedeur Sanders as a quarterback. But some of you, like I said, y'all feel into one of those two categories that I just mentioned. And I'm not apologizing. Because like I said, if I ain't talking about you, I ain't talking about you. Tyrell, congratulations on the brand new blessing. Thank you for the support and bless you. Shouts out to Tyrell. I don't know exactly what's going on. Let me stroll up a little bit. I know I talk quite a bit, and this comment section is basically just jumping right now. But Tyrell, if you can repost what you post so I can see it, I really appreciate that. TJ, you always say the Saints don't want a black quarterback. You think maybe a black quarterback are always All-American first-round picks, and we, for years, have always won just enough to never get a first or second-round pick. Look, I didn't say that the Saints don't want. I'm glad you mentioned that, DA. I didn't say that the Saints didn't want a black quarterback. I feel like to me, that's ridiculous. If you look at the course of time, Teddy Bridgewater, Jameis Winston, Aaron Brooks, Jeff Blake. Jeff Blake was originally supposed to be the franchise quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. His backup was Aaron Brooks. The Saints were about to alienate the entire fan base to bring in Deshaun Watson if he would have agreed to the deal. So to say that, they don't want a black quarterback, no. What I'm saying is you have people with a certain mind frame that root for New Orleans Saints football, that support New Orleans Saints football. They have that mind frame. If you don't fall into that category, you don't fall into that category. But I guarantee you, some individuals have that mind frame. And then you have the other people, like I said, they just look at ESPN. They look at some of the things that are out there. Some of them are embellished, some of the things they actually seen. And they put their own interpretation together as to what he would be like as their franchise quarterback. But what they don't see is this man working his behind off behind the scenes. They don't see that. Like this kid used to get up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, go to the facility out there in Jackson for a game against Southern. Like nobody sees this guy's work ethic. They don't see this man trying to improve, going to like these different places, working with these different professional quarterback coaches. They don't see that stuff. What they see is him putting his watch up and all that kind of stuff, and and the confidence that he has. And they say they don't want that. But I'm telling you, like, if the Saints draft Shedeur Sanders, they'll have something special. They'll have something special. You won't have to worry about him not going out there believing that he ain't gonna win a football game. I can tell you that right now. But Tyrell says, my wife and I and our first daughter are at the hospital watching the show. Also, I'm glad that DA gone. LOL. Thanks for the congrats chat. Yeah, Tyrell, man, congratulations to you. Having a child is amazing. I mean, me having a 5-year-old son, Paxton, and I can just remember, him being born. I mean, it's was one of the greatest moments of my life. Having my son was two of the most amazing moments of my life. The third is when the Saints fired Dennis Allen. But thank you all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. I really do appreciate it. Much love to you. Shouts out to everybody in the chat. Shouts out to everybody at home. Hope you enjoyed the show. We kind of went a little bit long talking about the whole Dennis Allen thing. We'll get into comments probably later on this evening if I have some time about the whole Marshawn Lattimore thing. I didn't play that clip, but we'll get into that. Previous episodes are available right here on YouTube. You can follow me on X at TJAYJones8. And I really do appreciate all love and support to those that came over to the NFC South Roundtable on Tuesday, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. All you have to do is search NFC South Roundtable. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug. I'm good.